In this video, I'll show you the simple plant they use, the small amount that works, and the one quick air move that keeps the room fresh without filling it with smoke. Because most people do the opposite, too much smoke, too long, and end up making the air worse. And near the end, I'll show you how to turn this into a safe, modern routine you can use anywhere. Plus a smoke-free option that gives you a similar fresh room reset without burning anything. In a Tibetan monastery, smoke is not treated like a nice smell. It's treated like a switch you flip in the environment, the same way you might open a window, wipe a surface, or change the lighting. The ritual is commonly associated with smoke offerings, often referred to as sang, a fumigation-style offering where plants like juniper are burned so the rising smoke carries scent through the space, and the act itself is framed as purification and blessing, not decoration. But here's the practical part people miss. In a monastery, the freshness effect is rarely caused by filling a room with smoke. The effect comes from a tight sequence, a small amount of fragrant smoke, a short period where the smoke travels and touches fabrics and corners, and then a deliberate exit, air movement that clears the heavy portion while leaving a thin, aromatic trace behind. The room doesn't feel fresh because it's smoky. It feels fresh because the stale layer of the room has been disturbed, replaced, and marked with a signal your brain reads as clean. And the brain is unbelievably sensitive to that signal. Smell is the fastest route to emotional memory and threat detection. And when an environment carries the scent profile of resinous mountain plants, dry, sharp, green, slightly medicinal, your nervous system tends to label the space as cleared, the same way it labels citrus as clean in modern products. The monastery version just arrived centuries earlier, with plants instead of factories. That's why the routine is so visual and so repeatable. It's designed to be done daily, the way you'd sweep a floor. The other reason it works is that it's not just smell, it's behavior. Monasteries run on rhythm. When a smoke routine happens, it's paired with predictable actions. Doors are handled, windows are cracked briefly, textiles are shaken, corners are visited, and people move through the space with intention. That matters because stale rooms aren't only about odor molecules. They're also about humidity pockets, cold corners, and air that sits still. A room can smell old simply because moisture lingers on fabric and surfaces, and still air lets that microhumidity build. The ritual interrupts the stillness. It pushes air through dead zones, especially near the floor, behind curtains, around bedding, and in corners where air stagnates. So what you experience as fresh is actually a compound effect. Scent plus circulation plus a subtle drying effect from brief ventilation. Even the timing matters. These routines are often done in the morning or after gatherings, moments when the air is most likely to feel heavy, either from night humidity or from human presence. And because monasteries are often in cold regions where you can't simply leave windows open for hours, the routine is designed to give you the feeling of a ventilated space without sacrificing all the warmth you've stored in the building. It's an efficiency ritual. Refresh the air, don't dump the heat. Now, we need to add a serious adult disclaimer, because modern homes are different. The same act that feels purifying in a large, drafty, stone building can become a problem in a small, sealed apartment. Health organizations warn that indoor smoke in poorly ventilated dwellings can lead to very high levels of fine particulate pollution, and those fine particles can penetrate deep into the lungs and bloodstream. Scientific reviews of incense smoke also highlight that burning incense can generate particulate matter and other compounds that may irritate the respiratory system, with risks increasing with poor ventilation and frequent exposure. So the monastery routine that keeps rooms fresh only stays helpful if you borrow the pattern. Microdose, movement, and exit, instead of copying the extreme version people imagine. That's why this video isn't telling you to smoke out your living room. It's showing you why the effect happens and how to get the benefits, freshness, reset, calm, without turning your indoor air into something your lungs have to fight. And now we can get specific because the next part is the hinge. Not all plants do the same thing, and not all smoke is equal. Juniper is the backbone for a reason, and once you understand what juniper brings and what it does not, your routine stops being mystical and starts being predictable. You'll also see the biggest mistake people make. They assume more smoke means more clean, when in reality, more smoke often means more particles and more irritation. In the next section, we'll break down why juniper is used so often, what its scent compounds do to perception and mood, what antimicrobial claims are plausible versus exaggerated, and how to aim for the light aromatic layer that lasts for hours while avoiding the heavy fraction that makes the air feel worse. Juniper shows up in Himalayan smoke routines for a reason that's both practical and strangely modern. It carries a scent profile that the human brain reads as dry, clear, medicinal, and it delivers that signal fast, with a small amount of plant material, which matters in cold places where you can't afford to throw windows open for an hour. In Tibetan contexts, Sangsol or Lasang practices commonly involve burning juniper and fragrant herbs as a purification act, with roots that predate Buddhism and were later integrated into daily religious life. But if we strip away the spiritual language for a moment and look at what a room actually receives, we can describe the effect in 3 layers. Volatile scent molecules that hit your nose immediately, heavier aromatic compounds that settle on a fabric and wood and create what people experience as lingering freshness, and particulate smoke that you do not want to build up indoors. That 3rd layer is the danger zone, and we'll handle it in the next section. For now, the reason juniper feels uniquely clearing is that the plant is rich in monoterpenes, a family of aromatic compounds that dominate many juniper essential oils and are responsible for that sharp, resinous, evergreen character. Scientific analyses of juniper oils commonly find compounds like alpha-pinene, beta-pinene, saponine, and limonene among major constituents, with exact percentages varying by species, geography, and plant part. If you've ever smelled crushed pine needles and felt your chest open a little, you're reacting to that same family of molecules. They don't literally scrub your lungs clean, and we shouldn't pretend they do, but they can change perceived air quality because smell is not decoration, it's threat assessment. The olfactory system is wired directly into limbic circuits for memory, emotion, and vigilance. So when a room carries a dry, resinous profile that your brain associates with outdoors, trees, and cold, clean air, it can flip your internal label from stale and heavy to cleared and safe in seconds. That's one reason the ritual works, even when the chemistry is modest. It's an environmental cue that recruits your nervous system. And it's exactly why many modern cleaning products still lean on pine, eucalyptus, or forest notes to sell the idea of cleanliness. Juniper just does it in its original form. Now, what about the claims that juniper smoke kills germs? This is where adults appreciate a straight answer. There's credible laboratory evidence that juniper essential oils can show antimicrobial activity against various microorganisms in vitro, and we can be specific about what researchers measured and what they didn't. A well-cited PubMed paper analyzing juniper berry essential oil reported major components like alpha-pinene and beta-pinene, saponine, and limonene, and then tested the oil's antimicrobial activity against multiple bacteria and fungi. That supports the idea that juniper contains biologically active compounds. But an essential oil in a lab is not the same as smoke in a room. Burning changes chemistry, concentration, and delivery, and the thing that most reliably fills a room during combustion isn't antimicrobial oil, it's particles. That's why many health reviews warn that incense smoke is a meaningful indoor pollution source that can release fine particulate matter and other irritants, with risk increasing in enclosed, poorly ventilated spaces and with frequent exposure. The World Health Organization also emphasizes that smoke and fine particulate pollution in indoor air can inflame airways and harm health, especially with chronic exposure. So the honest way to frame the antimicrobial angle is this. Juniper has compounds that can be antimicrobial under certain conditions, but the practical monastery benefit you can rely on isn't sterilization. It's sensory reset plus a mild reduction in musty odors, especially when paired with a short, controlled ventilation step. And that second part, odor control, is where the air memory effect matters. Rooms don't just smell because of the air, they smell because fabrics, wood, and porous surfaces hold on to volatile compounds over time and slowly re-release them. When you introduce a resinous, outdoor-coated aroma into those surfaces, you're not permanently cleaning anything, but you are replacing the dominant scent signature for a while. That's why the effect can last hours even after you stop seeing smoke. The room is now carrying a new scent layer that your brain interprets as fresh. Monasteries take advantage of this by targeting textiles and corners, the places that tend to hold old air. They don't need a long burn. They need a strategic pass that deposits just enough aromatic signature to change the room's identity. This is also why some people love incense and others hate it. If you overshoot the dose, the room's identity becomes smoke, and no amount of spiritual framing will make that feel clean. Your nose will classify it as combustion, and your throat will often agree. So Juniper works when it's treated like a precise tool, not a fog machine. One more subtle point that makes monasteries feel different. The ritual is usually embedded in a broader cleanliness ecosystem that modern homes forget. Monasteries often keep clutter low, textiles aired, floors swept, and cooking smoke separated from sleeping areas when possible. When your baseline is already orderly, a small aromatic reset feels powerful. When your baseline is heavy, candles, cooking oils, damp laundry, closed windows, a smoke ritual can actually make the problem worse by layering combustion onto an already stressed indoor environment. And that's why the next section matters more than the plant list. Because the part that keeps rooms fresh for hours is not juniper by itself. It's the method, microdose, controlled airflow, and a hard stop that removes the heavy fraction of smoke before it becomes indoor pollution. The mistake most people make is copying the look of the ritual. More smoke, longer burn, doors closed, when the monastery logic is the opposite. Enough scent to mark the room, then enough airflow to clear the particles. In the next section, I'll give you the exact method to do that, including where the smoke should travel, where it should exit, why extinguishing technique matters, and how to get the lingering, fresh effect without turning your air into something a health review would warn you about. The real monastery trick isn't the plant, it's the choreography, because the goal is never fill the room with smoke. The goal is to briefly lay down a clean, resinous scent signature, disturb stagnant pockets of air, and then remove the heavy part before it settles into your lungs and fabrics. Think of it like seasoning, not cooking. When people try to copy this and fail, it's almost always because they do the modern thing. They overdo it. They burn too much, too long, in a sealed room, and they confuse intensity with effectiveness. The monastery version is the opposite. Small dose, controlled path, and a clean exit. Start with placement, because placement decides whether you create freshness or contamination. You want a burn point near a safe exit route for air, not in the dead center of a sealed room. That means you choose one window or door as your exhaust point, and you create a gentle current toward it. Not a gale, not a wide open crosswind that dumps heat and throws ash everywhere, but a steady pull. In practice, that can be as simple as cracking a window in the direction you want the air to leave and cracking a second opening on the opposite side, just slightly less, so air has a path. The logic is directional. Smoke should travel through the space once, touch the corners you care about, and then leave. If it has nowhere to go, it will sit, cool, and deposit particles on its surfaces and into your breathing zone. And that's when the ritual stops feeling clean and starts feeling heavy. Next is dose, the part that keeps the effect pleasant for hours. You don't need a bundle the size of your fist. You need a pinch. If you're using dried juniper, you're looking at a small sprig or a small pinch of needles and twigs, not a torch. If you're using resins, you want a piece the size of a small pea, not a coin. Adults underestimate how potent these aromatics are because we're used to commercial products that are diluted and designed to be overused. In a traditional context, especially in cold, dry environments, a little goes a long way. The easiest rule is this. Your goal is a scent that becomes noticeable, not a room that becomes visibly smoky. If you can see a thick cloud hovering, you've already overshot. Now the ignition method matters more than people think. If you ignite plant material and let it flame, you often create a harsher burn and a quick burst of soot. What you want is a controlled smolder, but the cleanest smolder, and that means you light it, let it catch briefly, and then reduce it to a steady ember. Using a heat-safe vessel is non-negotiable. A ceramic bowl, metal burner, stone dish, or something designed for this purpose, placed on a stable surface away from curtains and paper. You're not doing a campfire, you're doing a measured aromatic release. Once it's lit, you run the pass through the room, and this is where the monastery visual comes from. You don't wave it wildly, you guide it. You move slowly toward the places that hold odor and old air first, near textiles, near corners, near the floor line, near bedding, near curtains, near entry points. The reason is practical. Fabrics and porous surfaces hold volatile molecules and re-release them. So the lingering freshness that lasts hours comes from lightly charging those surfaces with a resinous signature. But you keep the burn point at a respectful distance. You're not smoking your curtains. You're letting the air carry the aroma toward them. One simple pattern is a clockwise loop around the room's perimeter, then a short pause near the most stale area, then back toward the exit. The moment you feel the room's identity change, you stop. That's the monk discipline. Most people push past the moment it's already enough because they're chasing the dramatic visual instead of the practical effect. And then comes the most important step, the cutoff. In monastery logic, a ritual has an ending. In air quality logic, the ending is what prevents the heavy fraction from lingering. You end the burn early, and you clear the air immediately after. This is the part nobody wants to do because it breaks the fantasy, but it's the reason the routine can keep rooms fresh instead of smoky. You let the aroma mark the space, then you evacuate the particles. The cleanest way to end is to extinguish without stirring ash. Don't blow on it. Blowing launches fine ash and particles straight into the air. Instead, smother it. Place a lid over the vessel, or press the ember into sand or ash in the burner, or use a small snuffer. If you're using a stick, press the glowing tip into a fire-safe sand bed until it fully goes out. The goal is a quiet death of combustion, not a dramatic puff. And then you run a short flush. Not hours, minutes. A brief ventilation pulse is often enough to clear the visible smoke and reduce lingering irritation, while leaving the scent trace that clings to surfaces. This is where the ritual becomes efficient. You get to reset without dumping your home's warmth or turning your living space into a smoke chamber. If you want to be extra practical, you can use your body as the gauge. If your throat feels scratchy, eyes feel dry, or breathing feels tight, you did too much or cleared too late. The successful version should feel like clarity, not like exposure. Another detail that makes the effect last longer is timing. Do it when the room is most receptive to a new scent signature. After cleaning, after bedding is aired, after cooking smells, or in the morning before the room accumulates the day's humidity and human odor. The routine is strongest when it rides on top of an already clean baseline, because then the aromatic layer reads as freshness. If you do it on top of heavy cooking oils, damp laundry, or stale humidity, it can turn into a confused smell that feels worse. And finally, a warning that's common sense but often ignored. If anyone in the home has asthma, COPD, chronic bronchitis, or strong smoke sensitivity, a combustion ritual may not be appropriate at all, even with good method. This is not about being traditional or not. It's about respecting lungs. The monastery environment people romanticize is often large, drafty, and stone-heavy, and modern interiors can be tighter and more pollutant-retentive. That's why the last section matters. Because the best version of this routine for a modern home is not always burning plant material. The modern monk approach is to keep the effect and reduce the risk. A weekly schedule, safer alternatives, and a way to test whether your home truly feels fresher or you're just getting used to the smell. In the next section, I'll give you a monk-safe protocol that includes a combustion version done intelligently, a non-smoke version that still creates that fresh for hours effect, and clear rules for when you should skip it entirely. Here's the modern version that keeps the monastery effect, freshness that lasts for hours, the feeling that the air has been reset, without turning it into a daily indoor smoke habit. Think of this as a protocol you can follow for 7 days, then keep as a weekly rhythm. The first rule is frequency. In a modern home, the combustion version should not be your default every day. It should be your occasional deep reset, while your daily version is smoke-free. That alone solves the biggest long-term problem, because the main health concern with indoor burning isn't one dramatic session. It's repeated exposure to fine particles over time, especially in tighter homes. Health guidance and scientific reviews consistently highlight that indoor smoke and incense burning can raise fine particulate matter and contribute to respiratory irritation, with risks amplified by poor ventilation and frequency. So your protocol is built around 2 tracks. A daily freshness ritual that uses airflow, surfaces, and scent without combustion, and a weekly or twice-monthly smoke ritual done in a controlled, microdose way if it's appropriate for your household. The daily track is simple and surprisingly monk-like because it's about rhythm and environment control, not products. You do a short air pulse, you disturb stagnant pockets, and you mark the room with a clean scent cue. The air pulse is 2 to 5 minutes, not 30. You crack a window or door to create a gentle directional flow, then you physically move the air in dead zones by shaking textiles lightly, blankets, curtains, cushions, because fabrics hold odor and moisture, and release them slowly. This is the unsexy truth. Many stale rooms are stale because textiles are holding yesterday's air. Then you do a surface cue. In a monastery, smoke deposits a resinous trace. In your home, you can achieve a similar air memory effect by placing a small open bowl of dried juniper berries or a few juniper sprigs near an entry or near the warm core room, or by using a small amount of essential oil on a cloth placed out of reach, not diffused aggressively, so the scent is passive and light. And if you want a ritual cue that feels traditional without combustion, use warmth. Pour hot water into a bowl, set it near where you sit, and let a single drop of a resinous oil sit on a cloth nearby. The room takes on that dry forest signature without creating particles. The important thing is dosage. If you can smell it constantly from across the room, it's too much. The monastery effect is a subtle identity shift, not a perfume cloud. Now, the weekly combustion track, for people who can tolerate it and who can ventilate properly. You follow the method from the previous section: microdose, directional airflow, short pass, hard stop, and a brief flush, but you add modern safety gates. Gate 1 is people and pets. No burning when vulnerable lungs are present. That includes asthma, COPD, chronic bronchitis, recent respiratory infections, infants, and anyone who reacts strongly to smoke. Gate 2 is room choice. Choose the most ventilatable room, not the bedroom, and avoid burning near bedding. Gate 3 is measurement by symptom. The ritual should never create eye sting, throat scratch, coughing, or a tight feeling in the chest. If it does, you reduce the dose, shorten the time, or remove combustion entirely. Gate 4 is combustion hygiene. Only use clean, dry plant material. Avoid unknown incense blends with binders or perfumes, and never burn a way that produces thick soot or visible lingering haze. Smoke that lingers is not working, it's settling. Gate 5 is fire safety. Stable heat-safe container, nothing overhead, no curtains nearby, and never leave it unattended. With those gates, you can keep the monastery aesthetic while acting like an adult with a modern indoor environment. Now, here's the part most people want: the exact 7-day plan. Day 1, you do the daily non-smoke version only. 2-minute directional air pulse, textile shake, and passive scent cue. Then you notice how long the room feels fresh. Day 2, same routine, but add 1 extra dead zone sweep. Behind the sofa, near the floor corners, behind curtains, because those zones are where stagnant air hides. Day 3, you do the routine after cooking or after a gathering, and you observe whether freshness returns faster when you do immediately versus waiting. Day 4, you repeat, but reduce the scent cue by half and see if the effect is still there, because the goal is to train yourself out of overscenting. Day 5, if your household is appropriate for it, you do a microdose smoke reset once. Then you compare how the room feels after 1 hour, 3 hours, and 6 hours versus the non-smoke days. Day 6, you return to non-smoke only and see if the baseline feels improved. Day 7, you choose your long-term rhythm. Most people do best with non-smoke daily and smoke rarely. This plan keeps the fresh for hours effect because you're not relying on smoke alone. You're building a clean baseline, moving air strategically, and marking the room with a stable scent identity. That's the monastery logic, translated responsibly. And there's a final honesty check that prevents self-deception. If your home smells fresh only when you use smoke, but returns to stale quickly, the problem is usually not the lack of incense. It's moisture, textiles, or ventilation patterns. In that case, the monk move is not more ritual, it's solving the root. Dry the room, wash fabrics, reduce damp sources, and then use scent as a finishing signal, not as a cover. That's how monasteries keep it practical. Ritual sits on top of discipline. If you want, your next video can go 1 level deeper into the physical side of this. How monasteries control humidity and drafts to prevent rooms from becoming musty in the first place. Because once you fix that, even a tiny smoke routine becomes powerful, and you won't need to chase freshness at all.